Since covering aliens and UFOs on this channel, there's one area that always gets me excited, okay? Whenever I see this pop up on my feed or get sent to me and things like that, it's old school footage, usually around the 80s, right? It's old school footage of people being interviewed about their sightings of UFOs or aliens. We saw the old couple that got pushed off the side of the road in their car that saw a UFO and an alien came out, went up to their car and started the engine. I know it sounds far-fetched, but when you listen to that story, it's like it seems so legit. And then we saw a couple of police officers that they were drawing the UFO that they saw in the sky. We saw a couple of lads that told us about their story. It's really good, and it just, I don't know, it just makes me feel like they've got nothing to gain from it. So they're just explaining, they're telling their real story, right? Their true story. And so I found this one, and it's actually a family called the Knowles family, and this is in Australia. And when I saw the title, there's quite a few videos about it, but I've picked this one. Apparently, they were in a car again, and then a UFO comes over their car and lifts the car off the ground. That's basically what I can gather, but I've not seen this yet, so I wanted to check this out with you. This particular channel, UFOB, your UAP library, they put together a whole bunch of clips and made like a documentary out of it, I think. So it seems pretty interesting, and I don't think we've covered much about UFOs and aliens and stuff in Australia. And I know we've got a lot of subscribers from Australia. G'day, mate. So, let's go and check this one out, okay?
It was not the normal type of trauma that you see on the road. It was definitely some other encounter that they'd come across. These people were spooked.
What was it that so spooked a family driving along a lonely stretch of highway on the Nullarbor? No one can say for sure, not even the Knowles family themselves.
Well, the best way to describe the experience was, it wasn't like reality, it was just like a dream, but it was real.
You couldn't say there is anything out of the ordinary about the Knowles family, Faye and her sons Patrick, Sean and Wayne. But something out of the ordinary certainly happened to them on January the 20th, 1988. They were driving the 3,500 kilometres from their home in Perth to Melbourne. It was 3 a.m. Sean was at the wheel. His brother Patrick was asleep beside him. The desert was cool and clear as they entered Majura Pass in the middle of the Nullarbor. Then, out of nowhere, Sean saw it. A dazzling white light headed straight for them.
He told me, "Hey, Pat, wake up. There's something in front of us." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Wake up and check it out." He goes, "Look at that." He goes, "It's a UFO."
Sean panicked, tried to swerve out of the way, but still the object bore down on them. But that was only the beginning. Sean put his foot down and sped off along the highway.
It chased us for about a half hour, and then somehow it got in front of us. It must went around us, and the faster we went, the faster this object went.
It chased him for half an hour? What the hell?
And before we knew it, this object landed on a car.
Next, the unbelievable happened.
Oh, it
to
landed
this day,
on them.
The Knowles family are adamant that their car was actually lifted off the ground. If this is right, they were left suspended in midair. Sean, the driver, blacked out. The others became hysterical.
My mum was crying and screaming, just saying, "We're going to die, we're going to die, we're going to die." And all I just thought was, "My God, this is it." You know, I just thought, "Why us?" God said, "Why us?" And all I can remember then was we were dropped.
As the car...
Jesus, man, that's mental. Why was he blacked out, though? That's odd. Maybe he was just in such a state of shock. He blacked out because he obviously was seeing this from this very start. It's strange because I've got some clips coming soon to show you of these like white lights. Yeah, what he's describing now. I'll do that probably next week. Hey.
Crashed back to Earth. Sean regained consciousness. In terror, the family fled from the car and hid in the saltbush scrub. After a while, the object slowly moved away and the Knowles headed for the nearest civilization, the Mundrabilla Roadhouse. What they didn't know was that Melbourne trucker Graham Henley had been driving on the same stretch of road that night. He arrived at the Mundrabilla Roadhouse just before dawn, just before the Knowles family.
This blue Telstar came in a hell of a hurry. And these three young fellas and their mother jumped out of it. They were all talking at once. And the funny noises that one of them was making, he was obviously scared, witless.
In fact, the Knowles was so scared, Graham Henley didn't get around to telling them
I love the reenactments. It's fucking brilliant, isn't it?
what he'd seen on the Nullarbor that night. A bright magnesium type of light.
It just swerved and veered all over one side of the vehicle or the other. And I thought, what the heck's going on, you know? So I sort of accelerated a bit more and kept going, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. Just faded almost to nothing.
What?
Back it came again. And I thought, goodness knows, must be a helicopter or a roo shooter or something like this, having a bit of fun, and I never took much more notice of it.
But after talking to the Knowles family at the Mundrabilla Roadhouse, Henley did take notice. In fact, he and another truck driver drove back to Majura Pass, where they found evidence that seemed to back up what the Knowles had said.
Oh.
Everything was exactly where they'd turned around, the skid marks on the road, where they'd hidden in the bushes. One of the boys had cut the tops of his toes in the gravel, and you could even see the little drops of blood on the gravel and the sand and stuff where it was.
So that just shows that they were legit scared. Legit, mate. They're cutting themselves up and stuff.
And the Knowles captured headlines around the world. The police were called in, and the Knowles car was impounded. Experts tested it, but they could find no concrete evidence of an alien encounter. And so that was where the authorities let the matter rest.
Well, hang on a second. What are they searching for? They must have to know what an alien... They found no evidence of alien, residue. How do they know what they're looking for? Do you know what I mean?
No, I don't really think a lot of it has been investigated the way it should. But there was certainly, to my way of thinking, there was enough evidence to warrant a thorough investigation.
Certainly, something happened to that family that early morning.
Keith Basterfield is an independent UFO researcher, and he actually took the trouble to investigate the Knowles case. His report is exhaustive, but it's also inconclusive.
The manner in which the whole external factors came to deal with that family, in fact, probably has ruined us ever really knowing, because of the competing elements. The media wanting a quick story, sensational story, which is fine. That's their job. The police, who were disinterested once they found that they had a cookie UFO experience to deal with. The UFO researchers, because they couldn't really sit down to quietly explore the case. And the family themselves, because they suddenly found themselves the focus of an international effort when they were simply trying to get to Melbourne on holidays. I don't think we'll ever know.
Nevertheless, 5 years down the track, the Knowles family are still sticking to their story.
5 years later, mate.
Yeah, you betcha. They can think what they want, but I know what I know.
Family driving across the lonely Nullarbor plain.
So, what I would say to this, okay, is I know a lot of people still think that the only UFOs out there are man-made, right, from the government. They've made them and they're testing them, okay? But we don't get things we don't get stories like this now. So if they had the technology back then for something to be hovering in the sky and can chase a car at full speed for over half an hour and then pick a car up, right? Like 30 odd years ago. Why aren't we seeing that now? And why isn't it the technology developed so much more than that now? If that was like something that the government could do back then. You know, I don't know, mate. That just does seem alien technology to me.
Is chased by strange lights. Then their car is literally lifted off the ground and dropped again by the same glowing object. All this supposedly happened early yesterday, but was it a hallucination or a close encounter with aliens? Well, several other people have reported seeing mysterious lights in the same area, among them truck driver John de Jong, who joins us now from Adelaide. John, are you convinced that there was a UFO sighting?
What's his name? John de Jong?
On the highway?
Yes, 100% yes,
How can you say that?
because of the condition of the people that it happened to. When we got to them, it was hysterical, well, out of this world, put it any way you like.
I can tell you that I've just seen little green men, but you're not likely to
No.
believe me, are you?
No.
So why do you believe this particular story?
Well, there's two incidents that come up fairly recent in the last few months. One is I was followed for about an hour and a bit by a big bright light, which sounds silly, but I was followed. I was on my own. There was no backup to that story. It did frighten me. I actually kept travelling and locked my cab up and kept driving. It sounds silly, but it's true.
That would be
Did you
scary.
think that was a UFO at the time?
First up, I thought it was a helicopter doing low flying, but no way. It wasn't a helicopter because I checked it out to see if it was one in the area.
So that was one experience. Any more?
Yes, I had another one just before Christmas, about an hour from where this happened. I was travelling along, minding my own business, and the truck just got uncontrollable. I couldn't drive it, so I just pulled it up very smartly, got out, checked all my steering, and everything was in perfect condition. I took off and no more dramas.
Wow.
So how do you explain these mysterious occurrences in that very spot?
I wish I knew. It's not scary, it's a mystery that I wouldn't mind solving. It's a problem out there, and it's a lot more happening.
Do you know of any other drivers who've had similar experiences there?
A lot of us talk about them, yeah.
What kind of experiences?
Well, the sort of things that, like I've just said, the truck just does funny things, you get electrical problems, there's no electricity out there, so what's going on?
Electrical problems. That's what happened to the other old couple, right? When they saw that UFO, they got swerved off onto the side of the road. Their car just stopped, right? Just turned off. This alien comes out and touches the bonnet, like looks at touches the bonnet, I think, or the top of the car, looks at the bonnet or the dash, and the engine just turns on. Mate, mental.
Your hair stands up on the back of your neck for no reason. You get frightened.
So there's a whole lot of you truckies who are now believers in UFOs.
Well, whether it's UFOs or what it is, I don't know. But see, the thing that, how do you explain it? You see things and you hear things, but no one wants to believe you. It's hard to come on here and explain it. It's nearly impossible.
Have you ever said to yourself, maybe I'm going a little crazy?
No.
You're absolutely sure that you've experienced...
I've got to be silly to be driving a truck, but that's beside the point.
So what kind of effect has all of this had on you? Are you more careful when you drive down that stretch of road?
Well, we'll be going back again next week.
See what happens next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, every trip's a different one, but this is one that I would like to follow through because it actually happened. And if it hadn't have been for the people, I wouldn't have worried about it.
John, thanks for joining us.
I wonder if aliens or UFOs, they have a particular type of person or location or timings that they go for, right? Because a lot of these things happen out in the open, out in the middle of nowhere, I've noticed. do they pick up and sense something about the individual that they're going to sort of approach? Like, is there something about him?
Away from the reported sighting of a UFO on the Nullarbor Plain. This is despite a second report from a Port Lincoln-based tuna boat that they were buzzed by a UFO. The Defence Department says it won't be investigating. Police also don't intend to test forensic evidence taken from the car of a Perth family's encounter for at least another 10 days.
Left to their defence. Truckie Graham Henley tracked down the Perth family in Melbourne today to offer his support for what he believes was a terrifying experience.
Graham Henley has spent 12 years crossing the Nullarbor and he's seen some strange things. Today he caught up with the Knowles family to talk about one of the strangest.
You're looking a bit better than the last time I saw you.
Graham went looking for Faye and her sons after scientific reports discounted their story that their car had been damaged by a UFO. Graham was the first person to speak to the four after...
So they've done a few tests, right? Done a few radioactive tests and stuff, took some swabs and gone, nah, you didn't have encounters of aliens and UFOs. What? You'd be like, mate, F you, man. I was there. I saw what happened.
Their encounter, and he inspected the Ford Telstar.
I don't believe in little green men with aerials sticking out their head. That's it in a nutshell. But I do believe they were interfered with. I've got my own ideas on it. They were definitely interfered with.
What state were they in when you saw them at the petrol station?
Absolutely terrified. Totally terrified. Their reactions were totally different to a person out of a car accident.
After the reunion, in more relaxed circumstances, there was even a chance to laugh about their ordeal.
These two guys standing trying to pour this fuel in the car. I reckon you got 3 gallons on the ground and one in the car.
Graham will drive his truck back across the Nullarbor this week.
Family claims it was terrorised by a bright orange object. As Brad Smith reports, their claims have now been supported by other travellers.
It was early morning on the sparse wasteland of the Nullarbor Plain when Faye Knowles and her 3 sons claim they heard an ear-splitting whir as they were chased by a glowing orange object. The Perth family was driving east on the air highway near Mundrabilla, less than 100 kilometres from the South Australian border. Mrs. Knowles has told police at Ceduna the egg-shaped UFO landed on their car as they were travelling it over
an egg-shaped UFO. Okay, because we're getting little bits of more information depending on which clip we're looking at here. So it's egg-shaped now, right? Egg-shaped UFO. What have we seen? Have we seen any? Let me have a little look at my trusty... Haven't we seen any egg-shaped? But there is a lot more UFOs than this. Could it be like a tic-tac?
100 kilometres an hour. It swung the vehicle around before dropping it with such force it blew a tyre.
Oh!
What about the people? Were they harmed at all?
Weren't harmed, but visibly shaken up.
When the strange object disappeared, Mrs. Knowles and her sons Patrick, Sean and Wayne found their Telstar sedan covered in black ash. Truck drivers on the Nullarbor say there have been at least 3 UFO sightings since Christmas.
Black ash? I thought they did their swab tests and whatever.
Graham Henley saw the Knowles family at a Mundrabilla roadhouse. He confirmed they appeared shaken and upset.
I really couldn't explain it in normal everyday terms, but those people were interfered with by something.
And today, support for the bizarre story from another Perth family travelling along the Nullarbor.
Massive light. It was very, very bright. I mean, it would have to have a lot of power in those lights to light up the whole area, and the sky was lit above it.
It was
strange.
Bright.
It was a strange phenomenon. It was
much too bright.
Experts say a possible explanation for the encounter may be a phenomenon called min-min, an Aboriginal term meaning dancing lights.
It wasn't seem to be there, you know what I mean? It seemed to, I don't know, kind of grabbed the car started to smoke, more or less, the car started to smoke up. It felt like something was on the car, but I couldn't really explain it. And all the dogs in the car started to go crazy. And inside the car, all the cars started to smoke, you know, wound on the windows and the car started to smoke up.
What?
Inside, and we started, it was really...
Where did you think the smoke came from?
I couldn't really think anything, you know, it's just, you know...
What did it smell like?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Like dead bodies or something, you know. Like,
oh, dead bodies. Oh, yeah. Oh, mate.
You know, it just smelled so really foul, you know. It's real sickening. It smelled like gas or something, I can't explain.
Like sulphur, maybe, or something?
Police and locals are puzzled about that too. Both the UFO and the car were travelling at about 200 kilometres an hour when the egg-shaped object lost its grip. On impact with the road, the car...
Or just dropped it, lost its grip?
Car's rear right-hand tyre burst. Nobody can yet explain why the blue Ford Telstar didn't flip out of control, killing all the occupants. Nor is there any logical explanation for the almost perfect circular cut around the ruined tyre's outer casing, or the symmetrical dents on the car's roof.
At 5:30 Western Australian time this morning, they say a bright light appeared above them, picked up their blue Ford Telstar, shook it and then dropped it, bursting a tyre, denting the vehicle and leaving ash inside and out. It was broad daylight. Coming the other way, a semi-trailer and a third vehicle.
Didn't they have the, dust on them as well, like ash on them as well?
The semi-driver has reported the same amazing story. Faye Knowles and her 3 grown-up children were in shock when they told their story to Ceduna Police. Officer in charge, Jim Fennell, related to us the terrifying account of the moments following the Knowles' supposed close encounter.
The occupants left the car, ran into the scrub and hid. The object came back again and circled around and flew off.
Do you have any reason to doubt their story at all?
Well, I saw the people. They were certainly scared. They were visibly shaken. No, I have no reason to doubt that something happened. And also, bearing in mind that a semi-trailer driver and another motorist witnessed it.
This afternoon we spoke exclusively to Sean Knowles, who was in the car at the time, and he has no doubts at all about his astounding story.
When it was on our car, once it got the blowout, and we had this, all of us, we had this real weird feeling going through us.
How do you feel now?
That's probably why he blacked out, because of that feeling going through him, right?
I don't feel too bad now.
The Knowles family have been advised by police to have their car checked out by scientific experts in Adelaide.
It may have felt like... I'm trying to think of what it would have felt like. So I would imagine it would have felt like something... I don't know why I'm thinking this, but you know when you fall and you go like... like your breath goes funny? Like when you jump off of a cliff or something, yeah? I would imagine it would have felt something like that. I don't know why, but that's the sort of feeling I'm getting from it, right? If you're being lifted up. Oh, mate, imagine that.
This is Mike Smithson for 7 News.
The Knowles family was today still battling to come to grips with their outback ordeal, which has flung them into the international spotlight.
They can believe what they want, but what I believe, what I have seen, like I said, if they don't want to believe it, they can. It's their problem, yeah.
The Knowles claim they were hounded by a bright egg-shaped object as they were travelling along the air highway near the South Australian border early Wednesday morning. Yesterday, visibly shocked family members told 7 News how, when they'd attempted to get away from it by travelling at up to 200 kilometres an hour, the object landed on their car and lifted it off the ground. They told how they felt like they were dying, their voices changed, and their car was shrouded in a putrid black mist when they opened their windows.
It was lifted up at 200 kilometres an hour. What's that in miles per hour? 124 miles an hour. You're going 124 miles an hour and you're getting lifted up, mate. What?
Mrs. Knowles described touching a spongy object on top of the car before it lost its grip. Wollongong research physicist Glenn Moore says the sighting of a bright light, violent shaking, vehicle damage, the smell and depositing of powdery material are consistent with the falling of what's called a carbonaceous meteorite. As for the other circumstances which defy logical explanation...
There are some aspects of it that I have difficulty with. I can't comment in detail about some of the things they said. I noticed some confusion as to whether the car was actually picked up or not. I certainly could understand the massive shockwave that would push the car down, because in some cases where very large meteorites have fallen, trees have been knocked down, leaves stripped off trees by the pressure wave.
Well, wouldn't people see the meteorite come down? And if it did that, You know, where's the crater?
It's now a matter of tests being carried out on the dust found in the Knowles car. Forensic police have taken samples, but results won't be known until next week. Of all the attention the incident has attracted, at least one effort is worth a chuckle. The Knowles say their rear right car tyre burst during their encounter, and police and locals say it's a miracle the car didn't roll, killing them. A great promotion for their tyres, perhaps, and the Dunlop company was first off the mark, with this full-page ad worth $10,000 in today's Australian, assuming the Knowles car wasn't equipped with one
If only they'd stuck with Dunlop.
of their treads, but they got it wrong, all because nobody bothered to check their facts. The Knowles blue Ford Telstar was in fact fitted with Dunlop Grand Prix radials. While there might be a few red faces ducking UFOs at Dunlop, they have scored some additional free publicity. Maybe next week you'll see an ad reading something like this. Now, what about Ford? How can they go past a Telstar being hit by an ET?
ET1.
Astrid adds us, 7 News.
7 News encountered the Knowles car in Woodner on South Australia's Eyre Peninsula, then hired scientists from the Australian Mineral Development Laboratories to carry out extensive tests on it.
Extensive tests, check that out.
The Knowles maintain a UFO buzzed their blue Ford Telstar early Wednesday along the Nullarbor, then briefly lifted off the highway, causing the rear right tyre to burst. The terrified family...
That must have had to have been pretty high. I mean, because tyres don't burst that easily, right? I wonder how high that would have had to have been dropped from. A couple of foot at least, right?
Family also claim the inside of the car shook violently and became filled with a foul-smelling mist and a black powdery substance.
I swear to God, I'm not lying. I swear to God, I opened up my window, the car started going out of control. And all this smoke, and it was like smoke. I'm not lying. It was like smoke. And gases all started coming current. And me and my brother started to go crazy, you know. I thought I was going out of my head. Felt like my brain was getting sucked out.
Amdel scientist Monty Luke went over the car thoroughly before taking samples back to Adelaide for more comprehensive testing. The results released exclusively today show there's no evidence to support the Knowles claims a UFO landed and dented the roof or had been responsible for the damaged tyre and
What was the black ash then?
material found on the car.
Oh, the material that we found on the brakes, or behind the brakes on the front of the car is fairly typical of abraded brake linings and the brake disc.
Well, what about the stuff on the seat, mate? The powder stuff on the seat. Don't take it from the brakes. You're going to get that sort of stuff, aren't you?
So it's quite typical material be found on the inside underneath most cars in Australia.
And what about that shredded tyre?
No, I've seen this sort of structure before. It's quite typical of a tyre that's been driven on.
While that explains the damage to the family's car...
Okay, so we took samples from underneath the car where you're going to get brake dust, and on the brakes where you're going to get brake dust. Apparently the whole car inside was full of smoke. Why didn't they take samples and swabs of the seats, right? Or the roof of the car?
Nobody knows for sure what came out of the sky over Mundrabilla, although their UFO sighting has been backed up by locals, others travelling on the same stretch of road, and a similar sighting of Port Lincoln. Something did scare the wits out of the Knowles family, but it seems a coincidental tyre blowout greatly contributed to their distress and their bizarre story of cosmic bulldust. In Melbourne today, the family say they're sticking to their version that's got the whole world buzzing.
They're saying it's sort of calling us liars. And that's not true. What we know what happened to us, and it did happen to us. There's definitely something out there.
Meanwhile, the results of police tests won't be known until the end of next week. Frank Pangallo, 7 News.
The spotlight has now fallen on one of the most remote corners of Australia. Outsiders have become curiouser and curiouser about sightings which have always held enormous fascination. But the down-to-earth locals on the Nullarbor and Eyre Peninsula will say matter-of-factly that seeing UFOs is nothing new. But they mostly keep their experiences to themselves because they say no one would believe them anyway. Alan
Different story nowadays, though, isn't it, mate?
Stewart is the Highways Department foreman at Mundrabilla, where the Knowles family allege their UFO encounter. He staunchly believes in UFOs after seeing them regularly in the area over many years.
See lights stop, move, turn, circles. Like meteorite satellites don't do U-turns. They go straight line. You stop and turn.
Alan, in fact, believes he saw the same light the Knowles family were terrified of a few hours later.
There was a light hanging around. There was some light going across the north and one went northwest. Then it turned. And I sat out that morning, about 2 o'clock in the morning. I sat out for about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
And there are many similar case histories.
Just driving along at night time, just after 9 o'clock, I saw this great big light hovering in the air. Or, I don't know how far away, but to me it looked like about 10, 12 k's, and it just was there for about 5 to 7 minutes, and it just seemed to disappear.
The level-headed locals all speak of bright lights which travel very fast, change directions many times, are very silent even though they appear close by, and which disappear almost magically. Well, what do you think about that family from Western Australia who had that experience on the Nullarbor?
Well, I believe it has to be a UFO. Yeah, I believe it.
Tests by Adelaide scientists on the blue Ford Telstar have ruled out the claim by the Knowles family of Perth that a UFO landed on the car's roof and lifted it off the road. Analysis of black material on the car reveals it's mostly iron oxide, consistent with residue from worn brake linings.
Okay, iron oxide.
And they say the almost perfect cut on the right rear tyre was probably caused by driving a considerable distance on the rim, which may also explain the violent shaking and putrid-smelling smoke that filled the interior.
Okay.
The family has rejected the findings and is adamant an egg-shaped object attacked their car early Wednesday morning. The Victorian-based UFO Research Society, the oldest group of its kind in Australia, isn't convinced by the results either. The Society is sending one of its investigators to Adelaide to collect more samples and check for electromagnetic activity. These will be sent to the United States, where they'll be analysed by Princeton University astrophysicist Dr. Bruce Maccabee.
This family is very important to us because from what we've been able to establish and what other people have told us, they're not the type who would set up a fake. In other words, they're basically not interested in UFOs. They're just coming from Western Australia to Victoria and encountered this, what it could be a UFO or whatever it is, natural phenomena.
South Australian police are expected to reveal results of their tests later this week. Frank Pangallo, 7 News. Paul Norman and John Octell from the UFO Research Society examined the blue Ford Telstar said to have been attacked by a UFO a fortnight ago. They carried out a series of tests, including one for electromagnetic activity, then took samples from the car. Veteran UFO investigator Paul Norman says his initial inspection appears to back up the account by the Knowles family that something attacked, then lifted the car off the air highway, causing a tyre to blow.
I am convinced that they were telling that they were seeing an object of some kind, and they'd interfere with their car.
The researchers say they're satisfied the report by the Knowles family warrants further investigation.
So what we're looking for when we're doing these investigations, looking for faults in their story. At this stage we've seen nothing at all. What they've indicated in the car is right. We found the black material, found the markings, the damage to the car, it's exactly how they said it was. They also indicated they were doing 200k, which is impossible on the ground for one of these cars, but we did a test here and we've got it up to 200k's with the front wheels jacked up. So it really gives the impression that the car was...
Oh, okay! I did think that was pretty quick for that type of car back then, 124 miles an hour. So obviously when they're lifted up, the wheels can turn that quick, right? So it was lifted up and the engine just was free to go. It just went boom, straight up to 124 miles an hour. Wow, okay.
Well, gives you the idea the car was actually physically lifted up.
Samples taken from the car will be sent to Princeton University astrophysicist Dr. Bruce Maccabee for further analysis. However, the results aren't expected to be known for at least a month. Meanwhile, the Knowles family is remaining in hiding in Melbourne. They will undergo a detailed medical examination tomorrow. Members of the family have been forced to seek medical treatment for stress and nervous exhaustion brought about by their terrifying experience. Frank Pangello, 7 News.
And whatever category Western Australia's Knowles family fell into last week, well, you can bet that they're true believers now. Their close encounter took place early yesterday morning on the Nullarbor Plain, an area notorious for sightings, but never anything this physical. Thanks very much for joining us from Adelaide. Patrick, let me ask you first, can you explain to us what really did happen?
What happened? This is where well, we're going along the I Highway in between, it was kind of like on the border of South Australia and Western Australia. We were driving along there, and we were just doing normal speed and that, and I was a bit tired. Sean and Mum and Wayne were awake, and we noticed this light ahead of us, and we thought, oh, that's a truck, you know. We all thought that actually at first, and it started to get a bit closer. But this is strange, and it kind of disappeared like it went off the road, and it seemed to, you know, kind of fade and jump about a bit. And as we got closer, it just kind of seemed to move away, and when we got closer, it just kind of come back in towards us.
All right, so what happened then?
Well, we just kept on driving, and it kind of disappeared. Next minute, you know, it was right behind us, and my brother started planting his foot. He must have been doing at least 200 k's, and it just started to follow him.
So, Sean, you were driving. What did you do?
Oh, so now he was driving at 200k and not lifted up yet.
I planted my foot right down, and I got up to about 200 kilometres.
200 kilometres an hour you were driving at that speed? What was going through your mind?
I was hoping to get away from the thing. And we seen it in front of us again. So I turned back, and the next minute it was up the hills flying. And so I turned back again. I had to look behind us to see if it was still up there. It was still up there. And the next second it was on the roof.
It was on the roof of your car?
It was on the roof of the car. And as soon as it was on the roof, my back tyre blew out at 200 kilometres an hour.
All right, so what happened then?
As soon as the car stopped, I just blinked out, and that's all I know.
All right.
So he was going 200 kilometers an hour, which could explain the blowout, but it sounds as though when it got lifted up, there was like a push down as it was lifted up, which again, maybe that had something to do with it.
What about the rest of you?
We were screaming and yelling, and we didn't know what to do, you know.
We wound down the windows, all this black misty, like a smoke and a light, and we all felt really strange. Our voices started changing, and
our voices started changing,
and everything just went really, really weird.
You say your voices started changing?
Yeah,
it started to sound like aliens or something, like it was draining our minds.
It sounded like what? Arnold's? What? Did you say Arnold's? It sounded like Arnold's. Come on, it's a UFO. Come on, drive.
Really weird.
You say your voices started changing?
Yeah,
it started to sound like aliens or something, like it was draining our minds. It was really weird.
Wayne, what was happening? What were your thoughts at that particular time?
I thought we were going to die.
Were you saying anything to each other that you could understand?
Yeah, I mean, the alien, I said, I'm going to get you all. That's what I said.
All right.
What? Hang on.
I said, I'm going to get you all. That's what I said.
All right. Can any of you describe exactly, or as closely as you can, what this looked like?
It was sort of shaped like this, and had a round, looked like it was yellow, and on the side of it looked like it had sort of bird wings. It's weird.
All right. Look, could you understand, some Australians, maybe a lot of Australians, may not quite believe They could understand that you're shocked. They could understand that you were tired, but they may not quite believe
That's not
what
true.
you're telling us.
I don't care, but that's what happened to us.
You see, if they don't want to believe it, it's up to them, but if it ever happens to them,
Then I
and if
believe
it
it.
ever comes on, then they'll believe it.
They all seem pretty messed up about this thing.
So what do you think now about what happened to you?
We don't really know what happened, you know?
What do I think?
We thought we were going to die.
Well, what I think, you know, is I'm not saying believe in it, don't believe in it. I'm just saying, you know, it happened to us, and
It did
all I
happen
can
to
say.
us.
And there was a couple of truckies that did see us. They didn't stop for us. They sent us run out the bushes to try to call them over. They would not stop for us because they thought we were abos or something. Because out in the bush, you're not going to stop for anyone, are you?
All right, you're in Adelaide now. You're on your way to Melbourne. When do you head back to Perth?
In 2 weeks' time.
You're driving back?
No, we're not. No way.
You're not going to?
Like I
No.
said, I don't know what's going to happen with the car.
What do you mean, what's going to happen with the car?
Like it could have radiation in the car.
Has somebody suggested that to you, have
Yes.
And there's another thing. There's 2 guys from America. If they didn't believe this, now explain this. There's 2 guys from America would have come in down here to suss the car out.
All right, so what you're saying to us that you're too scared to drive back
That's
across the
right.
Nullarbor plain after what
true.
happened to you?
Yeah?
That presenter there, he seems a little bit of a, I don't know, he doesn't believe them, does he?
Terrified.
So you're going by train, eh?
Yeah?
Okay, well, we wish you all the best, and we thank you very much for talking to us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, and let's hope they get to the bottom of the mystery. Thanks for
hope
joining
so.
us. Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Wow, that was good, isn't it? I've never heard about that one. I love these old school like interviews of UFOs and things like that. They're brilliant. So what do you think? Do you believe them? Do you think they were hallucinating, all 4 of them at the same time? I don't know, man. And also, why don't you hear about these stories now, right? If these things could happen back then, why don't you hear about these things now? And if a family did come forward, or a person did come forward about their abduction or something like that happening, would we just think that they're crazy because of social media now? Everyone trying to, you know, make it on social media and get the views or go viral. Bit of a catch-22, isn't it? Anyway, I hope you liked it, and I hope that you subscribe as well, because we're going to be covering so much more aliens and UFOs and everything that we usually do with the paranormal. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a brilliant day. Take care. Bye-bye.
Get the merch at Caspersight.com. Just Rambo it.